Okay, Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Mem Daled and Ksubas as we look for a 4 Shlema. 4 Yosef Asriel Ben Chaim Michal and Elazar Ben Reuma. Yesterday we got down to the third line of daf Mem Daled and Aleph. What was the discussion? We had a machlokas here between Rav Huna and Rav Asi. What were we talking about? The Mishnah was talking about a case where, according to the Ran, he wrote her a ksuba from the time of Erusin, even though it's normally done at the time of Nesuin, or our Mishnah, the way Rashi learns is that we're going with the shita that yesh ksuba la arusa, that arusa is entitled to a ksuba immediately as soon as they get engaged, even if he didn't write it. But the rabbis gave such a tekana. It's a tekana drabanan. It's a tekana drabanan from the time of Erusin that she's entitled to the ksuba. Okay, she's entitled to the ksuba. Now, let's say at the time of the Nesuin, he adds on more. Besides the $200, he says, I'd like to give you this amount also in addition. So let's say the ksuba was written for 300. Actually, when he actually wrote it. So when you come to collect, okay, 300, you're supposed to give her 300 shekels. Let's say the $300. Let's say she can't collect. He has no money. He sold all his property. All the money is at other people's now. He sold it to other people. So when she wants to collect it, she had a prior lien, right? She has a lien from the time of Erusin. But what can she collect? Can she collect from the time of Erusin or from the time of Nesuin? So Rav Huna said, well, the basic amount, the 200, she can collect from the time of Erusin, because that the rabbis gave her that ability, that right, that she's entitled to 200 from the time of Erusin. The extra amount, any amount that he added on, let's say the other $100 or the other $10 million, whatever he gave her, that's from the time of Nesuin. Rav Asi says, no, both of them are from the time of Nesuin. Again, if the money is there, she can collect the whole amount. It's very simple. But the problem is the money's not there, and she has to go after people who bought land from the guy, from her husband. When can she go after him? Can she go from the time? Is her lien from the time of Erusin or from the time of Nesuin? So as far as the basic $200 goes, that's from the time of Erusin. But the extra amount, according to Rav Huna, is from the time of Nesuin. Rav Asi says no. Yes, all the money, the rabbis gave her that ability to collect from the time of Erusin. She's entitled to the basic suba. But when it comes to collect from the kuchos, everything is from the time of the Nesuin. That was the machlokas we saw yesterday. The Gemara then asked the kasha Rav Huna from the case of where a person had two ksubas. She had a ksuba for 200 and for 300. So what do we say over there? The Gemara said over there, well, if she wants to collect from the 200, she collects from the first time. She collects the 300 from the second time. It's mashma, the whole 300 is only from the second time, from the time of the Nesuin. So the Gemara says, no, there the 300 was coming at the time of the Nesuin to replace the 201. If she would have said, listen, besides the 200, I'm giving you an extra 300, and you would have got entitled to the whole 500. But over here, it's speaking about where he gave her a ksuba, let's say, or the ksuba, the implied ksuba at the time of Erusin was for 200. Then at the time of Nesuin, he gave her a ksuba for 300. So he wasn't adding on. He wasn't saying, listen, besides it, I'm giving you an extra 100. He went to say basically that he's giving her a new ksuba for 300, and she accepted that. Right from the top of the page on Memdalad, Hachanami Hainatam Delogovi Midlog Osifzacha Meya Amasayim. So she was mochel the first. She was mochel the shibud from the time of Erusin. Again, normally, according to Rav Huna, the way Rav Huna learns, she's entitled to have a lien on other property for the basic 200 from the time of Erusin. But over here, at the time of the Nesuin, he wrote her another ksuba for 300, and basically by accepting that as is, it didn't say I'm giving you 200 plus another 100. I'm giving you 300. She accepted that. She was mochel the first shiba. Amar Ma, this is where we left off yesterday, the third line, Daf Mem Daled Aleph. Amar Ma, again, where she came up, where a person, she said she had two ksubas, one for 200, one for 300. Rav Huna says if she wants to collect the 201, she collects from time of Erusin. If she wants to collect the 300, the entire 300, she only has a lien on from the second time, from the time of the Nesuin. That's what we explained. So she can collect with either one, not both, because otherwise it would have said I'm adding on the 300 is in addition to the 200. Not only that, in the 300, she didn't say, it was not written, I'm giving you 200 plus another 100. It was just either the 200 or 300. So if she wants the basic 200 from the time of Erusin, fine. If she wants the whole amount 300, she collects from the time of Nesuin. Collect with one. This is Lema Pliga Rav Nachman. This argues with Rav Nachman. If you have two documents which basically imply the same thing, the Ruvain is somehow transferring to Shimon some property, let's say. Or Reuben's transferring property. So one is written let's say from the 1st of January, and one's written from the 1st of March. Okay, the same thing basically. Reuben's giving his field to Shimon. So the second one comes to supersede and nullify the first one. In other words, why you have a second one? For the first one had some problem with it. It was, we'll see, claimed to be forged, or whatever. The guy was mochel, or he heard that there was a problem with it. So the recipient was willing to say, okay, I'll take the one from March, even though I can only distrain upon other properties. If something happens to this property, somebody takes it away, I can only go back to March. But my lien starts from March 1st. I'm willing to accept that. Rav Nachman says, the second one nullifies the first. So this argues with Rav Huna, because Rav Huna said she pulls out 2 ksubas, one for 200, one for 300. You don't say that the second one nullified the first, but rather if she wants to collect with the first one, she can collect with the first one from the time of Erison, the 200, or she can collect the 300 from the time of Nesuin. You don't say that the second one nullifies the first. So Rav Huna's halacha disagrees with Rav Nachman. Says Gemara, no. Even on that halacha that we said, that if you have 2 stars, both of them say that Reuben's transferring the field to Shimon, the second one nullifies the first. Rav Papa said about the Lav Miyit Rav Papa's, we'll see, Rav Papa says it later on this page. Umoder Rav Nachman, Rav Papa says Rav Nachman, who said this halacha, is moted to Yosef a dikla l'tosefes kasvei. If he added on one more thing, in other words, this is what we say, that if there's 2 documents written out that Reuben is transferring something to Shimon, the second one nullifies the first. That's only if they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same in what they're transferring. They're transferring this exact same thing to Shimon, so the second one nullifies the first. But if the second one adds on something extra, Reuben says, the first one said, Reuben says, I'm giving you this field from here to there. The second one says, I'm giving you this field from here to there, plus I'm adding on another tree or something else. Anything in addition to that, then it does that. Then the Eosef Beitikla, the Tosos Kasa, he wasn't writing it to nullify the first. He was just trying to give him enough advantage to add something on by adding on a tree or adding on anything else. He was saying, besides the first thing, I'm giving you a second thing, not nullifying the first. The guy would still have the lien from the time of the first star. He's just adding on the second one. Here he added on something. What does that mean? The original ksuba that she got at the time of Erison, whether it was written or whether it was implied, was for 200. Now, at the time of Nesuin, he gave her ksuba for 300. So the 300 doesn't nullify the first one. If she wants to collect with the first one, she collect with the first one. If she wants to collect with the second one, doesn't nullify it. Why? Because he added on something. He added on another 100. It's like adding on another tree. If it was the exact same thing, I'm giving you 200 today, and then later I'm giving you 200. So the second one nullifies the first. But over here, it doesn't nullify it. It adds on. Gufa. Let's understand this halacha again. Amar Nachman. Shtei shtaros yotzim zechus. 2 stars. 2 documents. They both say that Reuven transferred to Shimon this field. Bitul shenis harishin. The second one nullifies the first, as we said. Amar Papa. Papa explained. Morav Nachman. Nachman admits the Yosef Dikla. If he added on one more thing in that second one, Latosvas Kaspe, he wasn't writing it to nullify the first. It didn't mean that the first the recipient, let's call him the recipient. He could be a purchaser. He could be a donee. Whoever the recipient, Shimon, who got it. Was not mochel the first lien. In other words, he got it from January 1st instead of March 1st. If he added on something, he added it on to add something, not to diminish the recipient's claim from January 1st. He added on something in order to give him another advantage. I'm giving you an extra tree. I'm giving you extra money, whatever it was. Now, Pshita, listen to this. When Reuben's transferring to Shimon the field, right? It's obvious that if the Pshita Rishon b'mecher b'sheiv matana, let's say the first document said that Reuben's transferring to Shimon a field as a sale. I'm selling it to him for $100. Sold him the field for $100. Okay. Then he gave him a second document, March 1st. So, and that was, I'm giving him a field. I'm donating it to him. I'm giving it to him as a field. Now there, for sure, liapos kochu the kasuflay. Why did he write the second one as a gift? As a document, I'm giving you this as a gift. This is a sale. Mishum dina de bar metzra. Because what's the law? Remember the lachos of bar metzra back in Baba Basra? What's the law of bar metzra? If Yanko wants to sell to Shmerel a field, and there's another guy, Zvulun, has a field that is a junk that joins that field. So Zvulun has the right of first refusal because at the bar metzra, his field already borders that field. So he has a right of first refusal. In other words, Yanko wants to sell the field to Shmerel. Shmerel doesn't have any fields. but Zvulun has a field that abuts that field that's being sold. The right thing to do, is to give Zvulun the advantage, let him buy it. If you're getting the same amount of money, let him meet it. Shmerel wants to pay Yankel $1,000 for the field. Zvulun saying, I'm also willing to pay $1,000. You should give it to me because my field abuts that field. I'd rather have one big field. It would be more profitable to have one field in one place for the trucking and the plowing and all that. It's more advantageous to give it. So why not sell it to Zvulun? It's wrong not to sell it to him. That's in the case of a sale. But if it's a gift, if Yankel is giving Shmerel the field as a gift, he can give what he wants, and Zvulun can't say, well, give it to me. Well, I don't know you. Who are you? You have a field like that I'm giving as a gift. So the rules of bar mitzvah don't apply in the case of a gift. So it could very well be that when Yankel sold the field to Shmerel, that was on January 1st. It was a sale. Now on March 1st, he gives him a deed for the bill of sale for the same field, exact same field, but he wrote it as a gift. You know why he wrote it as a gift? To say that if somebody else wants it, if Zvulun wants to buy it with a right of first refusal, I'll give it to you as a gift. So to this way, he circumvents Zvulun by giving it to him as a gift. So in other words, he's giving Yankel is giving Shmerel an advantage, a certain right that wasn't given in the first one. So either he's selling it, but if Zvulun has a claim of bar mitzvah against him, he says, that's fine, I'll give it to him. In other words, that's the reason why he wrote the second star. He wrote the second. What are we saying? That when two stars are written, the second one usually nullifies the first, if everything else is equal. However, if he's adding something in the second one, something that wasn't there in the first one, I'm giving it to you as a gift now. Oh, Zvulun wants to pay for it and pay the same price and come with a dina de bar mitzvah. He's on the border. I'll give it to him as a gift. So I'm giving him an advantage. So there, the second one, right? So there, the second one is not to take away from the first one. It's just to give him an additional advantage. So the second one doesn't nullify the first. It's just he's giving him a second one that in case Zvulun or somebody else comes along and says, sell it to me because my field already abuts that, I'm giving him an advantage. I'm giving it to him as a gift. He really did sell it to him, but I'm giving it to him as a gift, either to get around it, or if that's the case, if Zvulun makes a claim against it, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to sell it to him. I'll give it to him as a gift. And then I won't take any money for it.
So you should go to Zvulun and say, hey, make an offer.
Okay, if there is this Zvulun, the whole idea is, okay, just in case, you're doing it just in case. So what do you think? Pshita Rishon b'mecher. The first one was a sale, and the second one was a gift. Liapos kocho the cost of mishum dina de bar mitzvah. And Kos came the other way around. Let's say on January 1st, he gave it to him as a gift. And then on March 1st, he sold it to him. The Kos came Rishon matana b'sheni mecher damrinan mishum dina de bal chovu the cost of came. The reason why he wrote it as a sales, I'll tell you why. Because if I give it to you as a gift, and then a creditor that I had before comes and takes it away from you, right? So here I'm selling it to you. I'm selling it to you for money, so that if somebody does take it away from you, you can come after me for the money. You can come and claim it again because I'm giving it to you. I'm putting it there, whether he actually takes the money or not. But he's selling to him. Listen, I'm selling it to you so that if somebody takes it away from me, if I sell, see, I could do it with a matana also, but normally the Mepharshim say it's not done. If I give you a gift and then somebody comes and says, you're not entitled to it. It was already his property. He had a prior lien to it. So that's it. Too bad. There's no gift. Not an Indian giver, just somebody took it away. But you have no claim against me unless I wrote in it that if somebody takes it away from me, I'll give it to you. But normally there's no claim against. But if I sold you a field and somebody takes it away from you, you have a claim against me. I owe you a field or I owe you the money. So maybe I gave you the second star to strengthen your claim so that if somebody takes it away from you, you can come after me again. So again, the second star added something to the first. Again, let's look at both of them again. Pshita Rishon b'mecher b'sheni matana liapos kocho the kasle. He gave him extra rights. Mishum dina de bar mitzvah. He gave him a stronger hand. They have more because the Zvulun won't be able to take away the field as from dina mitzvah. Kosh came Mishum matana. If the first one on January 1st was written as a gift and the second one was a sale, they're made Mishum dina de bal chov the kasle again. I read that in case of bal chov, in case a creditor comes and takes away the field from you, you can come and claim against me. Eli shnei b'mecher shnei matana. But if both the one on January 1st, the one on March 1st, both deeds or bills of sale transferring Reuben's property to Shimon are both written as a gift or both written as a sale, Bitul Sheni is a Rishon. The second one voided the first one, nullified the first one. Why? Why would there be a second one? Now, obviously, we're speaking about where the recipient has the stars, right? Because if the guy is giving him as a star, he can always make up all the stars he wants, right? You can write the star that the Malva gave, that the Mocha gave some to the Lokuach, even if the Lokuach's not there. But if the Lokuach has them, why was the second one Mavatal the first one? My timer. Two reasons. Rafim says Odia Odebe. Maybe it was Moda, maybe the Lokuach was Moda that the first one was forged. He heard rumors that people are talking about that it's forged. So he says, I'll tell you what, I'm willing to accept the lien from March 1st. Give me another one from March 1st. And I'm willing to say that I can't collect anything from January or February because I heard the first one's forged anyway. So I'd rather admit that. Rabachas is a different reason. He was mochel. So I tell you what, you know what? I'm mochel the shibud. He was a nice guy. He was mochel the shibud. Maybe and what's the difference between them? Ike benayu arui sade. Are you disqualifying the Adam? When, according to Rafram, he says, why is the second one? Why does the second star? Why doesn't the Lakuach stand up and say, why should I take it from the second date? I'd rather have it from the first date. I have a prior lien. So he says, why? Because the Adam are possibly forged. So the question then is that Adam are disqualified. Rashi seems to say, based on this, that he heard the Adam Achsuma Brisha according to their apostle. What do you mean their apostle is? Tosa says, what do you mean their apostle is? Just because he admits that they are, Amar, he says, I heard that they are false witnesses. Means false witness. If the Lakuach is Moda, or they're all Moda, that the Adam signed on it, it's a forged document. Well, if it's a forged document, any other document with those same Adam, Tosa says, would also be possible according to them. Okay, whatever. The point is that the second one nullifies the first. Rafim says because why? Because the Lakuach was Moda, the recipient or the giftee or whatever is Moda, that the Adam are forged or they're disqualified, and therefore he is willing to accept the second star in its place. But Rav Acha says the reason he's mochel the shibud. What's the difference between these two reasonings? One is to disqualify the Adam. According to Rav, the Adam would be disqualified at least in a limited sense for these guys. And according to Rav Acha, you're not disqualifying the Adam over here. You're simply saying that the recipient of the gift or of the sale or whatever was doing a favor and said, I'm mochel from the first year. I'm mochel from January 1st. I'll only make my lien from March 1st. Or l'shlumet peirid. Again, or would he have to eat the peiros that he ate from January to March? According to you, if you say the first document was forged is no good, then he'd have to give back those peiros. If the lakuach or the recipient ate the peiros, he'd have to give it back to the mocher because he wasn't entitled to them. According to Rav Acha, he was mochel the shibud. What does it mean? I'm mochel. I bought the field really January 1st, but I'll tell you what, I'm mochel the shibud. If somebody takes it away from me, I'm mochel the lien I have is only from March 1st, but I really bought it from January 1st, so I don't have to give back any peiros. Well, the Taska, who actually owns the property to pay taxes, to pay property taxes on? Do I own it from January 1st or from March 1st? If you say that the first star was forged, was not a good star, so I only have to pay taxes from March 1st. But if you say that the first star was okay, I was simply mochel the shibud, that I don't have a lien from January 1st if it's taken away from me, but I did own it from January 1st, then I would have to pay the recipient or the buyer would have to pay the taxes. My Avilah, but what in this machlokus that we started with yesterday between Rav Huna and Rav Asi, when we said, from when can you distrain upon others in land? In other words, if she's divorced or widowed, and now she had a star a ksuba for 300. From what date can you claim you had a lien on? From the date of the Erison, the date of the Suin. So Rav Huna said the 200 from the date of the Erison, the extra amount from the date of the Suin. Rav Asi said everything from the date of the Suin. This is talked about in terms of making a claim. Again, we're going with the Shita in our Mishnah that the ksuba is really from the time of the Erison, not necessarily how we hold. But from the time of Erison, there's a basic ksuba of 200, which is an automatic implied ksuba. And any amount that's added on is added on when they write the ksuba at the time of the suin. But when you come to collect, if she can't collect if the husband's, it doesn't have available assets for the 300, and she has to go after property that was sold or mortgaged to somebody else, when she collect? When Rafuna says the 200 from the time of Erison, the extra amount from the time of the suin, what's the halach at the end? My habilah, the ksuba. Tashma damar bira mishmul. We're going back to ksuba, not just these cases of shtaros are written with Reuben and Shimon. Tashma damar bira mishmul. Mishum ablazer of Shimon. Manam assignment of Erison. Tosminasor like Rav Huna, that he passing of Yudam Mishmul says in the name of blazer of Shimon that the 100 or the 200, 100 for a Beula and 200 for a Psula from the time of Erison, and the additional amount of time is Both from the Suin, Like the Chachamim, the Chachamim really was really like who, like Rav Acha, was it Rav Acha, who was it Rav Huna? It was Ravasi rather. Ravasi said, and now the Ravasi is really going with the Shita Chacham. We pass like the Chachamim. They're both from Nesuin. They're both from Nesuin. That's even in a case like our Mishnah where there's an implied ksuba from the time of Erison. Lamaisa, I don't think we pass in that way. In normal cases, and everything else being equal, unless he gave it on his own from the time of Erison. But normally the chiyuv for ksuba is only from the time of the Nesuin. And even if the chiyuv was from the time of Erison, that's only if he has assets. But if you have to distrain upon others' properties, then it's only from the time of Nesuin. Okay, now we're going to get into. We've talked about a ones, a rapist, and he has to pay $50, 50 shekels, whatever. He has to pay 50 shekels, and he has to marry her. He can never get rid of her, right? This is a rapist who rapes a girl. We said, according to the Chamim, Kana or a Nara, up until the age of 12 and a half. Remember, Meir said only during a Nara, right? That you can sell a girl until she's 12, but the rape is only. And the same thing for a seduction, a case of pitui, a mafata. Except the difference is by mafata, he only pays the 50 shekels if he doesn't marry her. But if she doesn't want to marry him, or the father objects to the marriage, then he can marry her and he doesn't have to pay the 50 shekels. That's what the learn of onus mafata. Then there's a halacha of motzi shema. What's motzi shema? He marries her. The pasuk says in Dvarim, he doesn't like her. Someone says he spreads bad rumors about her. He gives her a shame, he gives her a bad reputation. I got engaged to this girl half a year ago, and when I married her, guess what? Somebody beat me to it, and she committed adultery. Now, the way the pasuk reads is like, okay, were there Edom over here? So the pasuk doesn't tell us, but we'll see the Gemara speaking about he has Edom that she committed adultery. Then the father of the girl claims the Ima. She says that no, look, she's a virgin. How do they prove she's a virgin? They have Edom who are mazim the first Edom. They are Edom who make the first Edom zomen. Here I got parcel of some things. It doesn't really mean they lift up her dress in front of him. It means that they check things out, and they have Edom. They take this man, V'yisroso, because in other words, his Edom that he claimed she committed adultery are liars. How do we know? Because there's Edom Zomun. Believe the Edom because they are Edom Zomun. Because we have other Edom that the girl's family brings that says those guys are liars. They were with us in St. Louis at that time, and they couldn't testify. So and they put him and they give him Yisroso means they give him Malchus. Now normally we had before only Rav Meir holds that local mishalim, that we had a local mishalim, but over here in this case he gets Malchus and he has to pay. Vanshu also may he has to pay money. I'm reading these psukim because all these words are going to be important for us. V'nasnu lavi hana'arah. Lavi hana'arah here is spelled with a hey. In most places in Kisei, you'll see those cases spelled without a hey. Without a hey means even a ketana. Remember we had that before. When it says nara with a hey, no, nara, 12 to 12 and a half. He has to pay $100. Besides the fact that he gets Malchus, the husband, for lying. By the way, what happens to the Edom Zoman? They're killed. The husband was trying to kill her. She committed adultery, right? Skila, she's now committed adultery. Okay, that's what the Edom said. She committed adultery. The other Edom who come along and are Muslim, the first set of Edom, and show that they're liars. So what happens to the first set of Edom that try to kill her? They are killed. That's Edom Zoman. If they were trying to kill her, they didn't kill her at the end because other Edom came and showed that they're liars. So you kill the first set of Edom. So what happens over here? You kill the first set of Edom. The husband has to pay $100 and he gets Malchus. He doesn't get killed. He gets Malchus. Right? He's put a bad name, Al Basulas Yisrael. Notice it says Al Basulas Yisrael. Yisrael is going to be important in a minute. We're going to see what Yisrael is coming to teach me. But she has to stay or married after this whole episode. Can you imagine with the Edom when they're killed? He's got to keep her as a wife. Well, they're going to need a lot of counseling. They're going to need a lot of counseling, right? Okay. Then the pasuk goes, if it was true, the first Adam were right. He committed adultery, you take her out and you kill her. El Pesach Beisavia, you kill her. Because she committed adultery. El Pesach Beisavia, to the door of her father's house. All these words are going to come in important. Uskalua, and you stone her. Stone her and she will die. Well, isn't it pretty obvious she's going to die? Again, Vamesa is going to come forward. Ki assa navala Israel, because she did an abomination in Israel. All those words are going to be important as we learn the parsha of Motzi Shemra. So there are similarities to the case of a rapist or a seducer, right? But in the case of rapist, certainly it's not her fault. And in the case of the seducer, again, we're talking about a psula, not married. We're talking about a girl who was married, and he brought proof that she committed adultery. Was the proof good proof? If it's good proof, you kill her. If it's not proof, because the Adam were muzam, then you kill the Adam, and he has to go, and the husband has to bear these punishments. Now, we said be Israel. So the Mishnah says like this: Hagyorish Nesgaira, a girl converted, a woman converted, Nesgaira Bitima, and her daughter converted with her, right? And that daughter converted with her even under the age of 3. Remember, if you convert after the age of 3, she's assumed already to be not a psula, because you assume that they violated her. But over here, the daughter was less than 3. And now the daughter committed adultery. The daughter grew up. She was a psula, right? And she committed adultery. So would she get skila, like the case of Motzi Shemra? And then this whole Motzi Shemra case happened. Harezu b'chenek. No, she doesn't get skila. She gets chenek. Why? Because this whole parsha, the parsha of a married girl who gets skila, naruma orasa. Remember, she was engaged or married, right? In the case of marriage, you see, normally once a girl is married, if she commits adultery, the punishment is chenek, strangulation. But in the case of Motzi Shemra, there's a special pasuk. It says you have to give her skila. Normally, skila is only for a nara mureset, a girl who's a nara. She's a nara and she is engaged, not when she's betrothed. She's not married. So over here, we say like the pasuk we just quoted by Motzi Shemra. So over here, even though she has skila, that it's only b'di kinaval b'Yisrael. She's not a Yisraelis. She's a Gyoris. Remember, what are we talking about? We're talking about a girl who converted with her mother. So the girl was also a convert. The young girl, she was 2 years old, right? And they converted her. So she's not a Yisraelis. She's a Gyoris. And therefore, the parsha of skila doesn't apply. But she's killed. But later on she commits adultery. She's bat mitzvah, and she commits adultery after being betrothed to somebody. She gets l'chenek. You don't kill her at the Pesach, because he said, what did we say here? We said you take her in emes hayah. What do we say? In emes hayah davar hazeh. Pesach Pesavia. You kill her at her father's house, at her father's door. There's no halach of the father's door over here. She doesn't really have a father. She was a shiksa who converted. Below Me'asela, not entitled to Me'asela either, because the whole parsha only applies really to Yisraelis. However, if she still is, why is she killed b'chlal? Why maybe the whole parsha doesn't apply? It does apply. We'll see. The Gemara will explain this. Let's say when she was conceived, her parents were goyim. Then her mother converted. Father, she doesn't have a father because her father's a goy. Even if her father was a Jew, technically he doesn't belong. He's not her father anymore because she's the shiksa and then she converted. But whatever. Let's assume that they were both. Parents were goyim, and then her mother converted while pregnant. Harezu b'skila. Then she does get skila. Why? Because she's born as the Yisraelis, right? She's born as Israelis, but Ein lo Pesach Beisav, but she doesn't have a father because she doesn't have a father. Who's her father? She doesn't have a father. Ein lo Pesach Beisav, Ein Zoch Letzia Pesach. Who's her father? Her father was a goy. Even if he was Jewish, he's not really her father because she was conceived from a mother who wasn't Jewish. So Ein lo Pesach Beisav, below Me'asela, the whole parsha doesn't really apply because there is no Avi over here. Let's say no. Let's say the mother converted, and then the mother conceived her and gave birth to her. Then she's born. She was conceived Jewish, born Jewish, and she's regular Israel. Let's say she has a father. She's a regular Jewish girl. whether converted or not, but she was conceived Jewish and born Jewish, but her father doesn't have a house. He's renting, or he doesn't have a house, right? Or he doesn't have a house, whatever. Yes, she has a father and Pesach, or yes, a Pesach, he has a house. Then there's a house, but the father's dead. So would you say, well, you can't kill her? It says you're supposed to kill her, Pesach. No. She still gets skila, remember Pesach, el mitzvah. The mitzvah is to kill her Pesach, as we'll see, to show, look what kind of a daughter you raised. Let's say the father's dead. The whole parsha is not going to apply. She committed adultery. Husband shows that, but the father's dead now, so no, you still kill her anyway, just that you kill her at her father's house. If it's no father, or the father doesn't have a house, you still kill her anyway. But how do we know this? How do we know that if a Rosh Hashanah B'Kedusha, that she still gets skila? After all, you could say she's not a Yisraelis, right? Or she wasn't conceived Jewish. Again, remember I said that pasuk, and stone her. The people of the city will stone her with rocks, but Mason, she will die. It's pretty obvious if you stone somebody, they're going to die, right? What is Mason? Mason includes her too. Even the Rabbos to include even a woman who was conceived not Jewish and then born Jewish. The Mishnah said, oh, in that case, she gets skila, but the husband doesn't pay the 100 shekels if it's not true, right? If it's not true, and the husband just Moses Shemra, he doesn't get malchus and he doesn't pay the $100. Why not? Why don't you say Mesa includes that? Mesa is Rapsa. The pasuk says even if she was conceived not Jewish and born Jewish, for Misa it's included. She gets the skila below the knas, but the knas for the husband doesn't apply if she was conceived not Jewish. Maybe it's coming to include that, when did she die? When do you give her skila? If everything was Kedusha, she was totally Jewish from conception on. This is how Yisrael Ismail will say that's a regular Israelite. So what do you we said Bas Yisrael. It says in the law by Yisrael, she's Bas Yisrael, Psulas Yisrael. So maybe it comes to include a girl who was born not Jewish and converted. Maybe she also gets skila. Sim came be Yisrael, my honey. Why did it say Nevav Yisrael? It's not be Yisrael. Even if it wasn't be Yisrael, she's a Yoris. She's a Yoris. She's not Israeli. She's Jewish. She has a lach of being a Jew, but she's still called the Yoris. Can't marry a Kohen, etc. So it can be Yisrael. What does it say be Yisrael for? It doesn't only apply to Yisrael, it applies to Yoris also. So be Yisrael means to say that only if all the rules, if she was at least born Jewish, or if she was conceived and born Jewish, then she's the Israelis. If she was conceived not Jewish and born Jewish, she is stoned. But if it's not true, that she committed a sin, but the husband was mostly Shemra, he doesn't pay the $100 or get the malchus. Amar of Yossi Rav Chanina. Listen to this carefully now. Hamotzi Shemra Ali is soma potter. What happens if she doesn't have a father? Now I want to explain something. In the case both of Knas and the case of Pitui and the case of what? Of Motzi Shemra, it always says he gives the father the money, right? Masan Lavia Na'ara, right? He has to give Chamish Ges. Or here it says, if it wasn't true, in all cases he gives the father Na'ara. Okay, so you know what Rav Yosef Rav Chanina says here? If she's a Yisoma, she doesn't have a father, you potter. The whole thing doesn't apply. The whole parsha doesn't apply. Potter, the whole deal doesn't apply over here, right? The whole parsha of Motzi Shemra doesn't apply. Shedemar says Menasol Adianara. Prat Lazu Shein doesn't have a father. The whole thing doesn't apply. Must Rav Yosef Rav, and listen to this carefully. Pasuk says back by Mefata, not by Motzi Shemra, but by a man who seduced a Nara. It says if he seduced her, then he has to marry her, either pay the money or marry her. She take Mahoria Morena, quickly take her for a wife. And it says if the father refuses, he says, I don't want that guy, that seducer, to marry my daughter. In Ma'ain Yima'ain, it says if he will refuse. How do you translate Ma'ain Yima'ain? There's no translation. She'll surely refuse, because for lack of better vocabulary, that's what we say. But here the Gemara says there's a reason for it. That it says that she can also refuse. He refuses or she refuses. Okay, why would she refuse? Why would she refuse? Because she doesn't have a father. So what do you see over here? Oh, but wait a minute. This applies to Mafata. How do we apply this to Motzi Shemra? So here, take a look at the Rashi. Here's an important Rashi. Rashi, the fourth line from the top of the page. The Matzah could just say Imayin. Because in Imayin, it says the double Ashmaim, Bein Aviyakayim, whether he's alive and he's refusing, Bein Shein Aviyakayim, the He-Man, and she's refusing, right? Refusing is just like a meal, right? She's refusing to marry the guy. Alma. Even though it says by ones, it says Vodasan Lavianar. It doesn't really say it by Mefata, but the onus from Mefata they learn from one another. Remember, because this is their Kesef Yishko Kamar Psulos. By onus, it says Vodasan Lavianara, and onus and Mefata are learning out from one another. So okay, fine. So that's Mefata. We're trying to apply it here to Motzi Shemra. Over here, the Torah said, fine, Moin to include the daughter. So here we're not adding on Yisoma. It doesn't say a pasuk to say it includes the Yisoma also. We're not adding it on from an extra word. You're not adding it on from Yisoma. The sphere later Tana. The Tana knows that when it says Aviyah, the Kra, we're not coming to say that if she's a Yisoma, it doesn't apply. The Knas normally goes to the father, not to her. In other words, when you say over here, you see that when it says v'nasnu lavi anara or it says by knas, which applies to Mefata also, it doesn't mean to say that only if the father's there. It means to say that if the father's there, he gets the money. But it doesn't mean to say that the parsha doesn't apply if there's no father. If there's no parsha, doesn't apply there. You see, it applies even to a yisoma, because this is ma'ain. She could also refuse if there's no father. So how can you say? How can you, Rabbi Yosef say the Motzi Shemra Yisoma is potter? No, it should apply to Motzi Shemra. Should apply to a Yisoma also. Except there's no father to get the money, so give her the money. So who most when he asks this kasha, Rabbi Yosef Barab and asks the kasha, who most of he asked the kasha and Prakti also answered it. You could really say this that he's talking about Moin Yemen by Mefata, speaking about when he raped her, there was a father, and afterwards she became Yisoma. Why can she refuse? It says Ma'ain. The father refuses or her refuses, showing you that the parsha applies even by Yisoma. No, maybe not. Maybe it could very well be that if she's a Yisoma, the parsha of onus Mefata doesn't apply, and the same thing for Motzi Shemra doesn't apply. I says that she's refusing. They're speaking about at the time of the rape or the seduction, she had a father. Then the father died. So then she was the one who refused it. But if there was no father, maybe Motzi Shemra doesn't apply, and maybe onus Mefata doesn't apply. That's Rabbi Yosef Rufnina says, Motzi Shemra, al Yisoma potter. Fine. That's one sheet. The Rabbah says no. Chayev. Yechayim. Why? Mimai. Midatani Ami. Ami learned the following thing. The pasuk says over here, Psulas Yisrael. Remember I said here the pasuk says, V'anshuo somei kesem nasal v'yanar kiyosi Shemra al Basulas Yisrael. What does it say? Psulas Yisrael. Below Psulas Gerim to come there. Psulas Gerim doesn't apply. Yeah, if you say that he is summoned, is a bas gerim, psulas gerim, a gyoris is always a yisoma. She has no parents. So psulas gerim says here, psulas Yisrael to exclude psulas gerim. Now, if you say yam bishloma ki agam Yisrael the yisoma Yisrael machayev is chayev and Motzi Shemra, and the same thing could be for onus Mefata. So excuse yisoma normally you do yisoma applies to Motzi Shemra applies to yisoma. So the pasuk is exclude gerim. Eliyam Yisrael kai gafna potter. If you say that the whole parsha of Motzi Shemra doesn't apply to a yisoma, so of course it doesn't apply to a bas gerim, because a bas gerim, a gyoris, is automatically yisoma. She doesn't have any real parents. Has to be Yisrael potter, begerim boy. If she's potter by Yisrael, certainly by gerim. So certainly, when Psulas gerim yisomi, the Rahman Afke, he doesn't really have any parents. So therefore, Rava's reasoning stands better, seems to have a stronger proof. And Rava says that the parsha of Motzi Shemra applies to Yisoma as well as to not only to a girl who has a father, but even to a Yisoma as well. So that applies, even though she doesn't have a father. So the business about Nasli Yavara is that if he has a father, he gets the $100. That's like by onus Mefata. If there's a father, he gets the money. But if he doesn't, but if he's not there, the still parsha applies. In other words, you don't say that if there's no father, then rapists get off the hook, or seducers get off the hook, or Motzi Shemra gets off the hook. Amr Shlakish. Hamotzi Shemra ala Ktana. What about Motzi Shemra Ktana? We had before, does Ones and Mefata apply to a Ktana? According to Rabbanan, yes. Remember, Rav Meir says no. It's only the world 12 to 12 and a half, only an hour. Rabbanan say even a ktana. Rish Lakish says Motzi Shemra though doesn't apply to a ktana. Shinamar it says Menasna Lavi HaNa'ara, and it has a hey at the end. Nara Mole Dibra Kasa. The pasuk says Nara, a full Nara. She's got to be 12 to 12 and a half. So the parsha of Nara of Motzi Shemra only applies to a girl who's between the age of 12 and 12 and a half. Only a Nara. Once she's a Bogeris, it doesn't apply, and if she's a ktana, it doesn't apply. Maskul Ravacha Baraba, time because of a Nara. Why? How do you know that it's a girl on 12? Because it says Hanara with a full hey at the end. In other words, if you look ktana, even a ktana also. How could it be a ktana? Pasuk says, what did I say? The pasuk says, if it's true, she did commit adultery, you take her out and you kill her with skila at her father's house. How can you kill her? She's a ktana. School, you stone her. You can't punish a girl. She's not 12 years old. You can't give her punishment. Can't give her capital punishment. Ella kan nara. The chiddush is ella kan nara. The chiddush is this. Yes, we know that. How do we know that Motzi Shemra does not apply to a ktana? Because it says if the story is true, you kill her. You can't kill a girl as a ktana. So we know it only refers to a nara. And since over here this parsha only refers to a nara, and nara here is written with a full hey at the end, that shows you that when it says nara with a full hey, then it means really a nara. If it doesn't hey with a hey at the end, there could even be a ktana. Because over here, where it says it with a hey, it's talking about a case girl is fully 12 years old. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to kill her. Okay, so that's what we have so far. So what do we have now? That the case of Motzi Shemra, which we've been discussing, right, that does not really apply to a Yoris, right? It doesn't really apply to Yoris. You don't kill her because if she committed adultery and she was a Yoris, she was originally Yoris, even though she was a psula and all that, she committed adultery while married, you give her chenek like any other married woman. Okay, doesn't apply there, but and it does apply even to Yisoma. We say according to Rava, we seem to pass like Rava applies to Yisoma, but it doesn't apply to a ktana. It only applies to an nara. Then we end off the Gemara with Tani Shila. That was his name, Shila. Shila says like this: Shalish Midas Manara. There are three types of execution of a nara. A nara who committed adultery, was married. She committed adultery, is married. If she wasn't married, you don't execute her. You only commit adultery. Adultery means she was married, right? There's three different kinds. Bolo Adam Beis Chamia. Let's say Adam came while she was in her father-in-law's house. Father-in-law's house implies what? That she is married already, fully married, not just engaged. When we talk about adultery, it means she has to be engaged at least, betrothed, right? But over here, if Adam came and she was in her father's house, father-in-law's house, that means she was married already. That's the case of Motzi Shemra. Motzi Shemra, she's married, right? The husband married her, took her and says, hey, she's not, I see she committed adultery. Bolo Adam came while she was in her father's house, father-in-law's house, claiming that she committed adultery before the marriage, right? After betrothal, before the marriage, while she was still in father's house. Then that's the case of Motzi Shemra. You stone her at the door of her father's house. Again, if she doesn't have a father or if he doesn't have a house, it's not indispensable. You stone her anyway. But if she has a father and he has a house, you stone her father's house, as if to say, look at this, look what you've brought up, look what you've grown, look what kind of a plant you've nurtured, right? A girl who committed adultery after betrothal. That's the first case. Adam came when she was already married, meaning in her father-in-law's house. That's the case of Motzi Shemra, where the husband says, I married her, and look what happened. Let's say Adam came while she was still in her father's house. She wasn't married yet. She was just betrothed. Adam came and said, this girl committed adultery. So Shazinsa B'Beisavia, she committed there. Soklan Asal Pesach Sharir. You give her steal of Pesach Sharir. What pasuk is that? Michael, later on it says, a few psukim after the parsha of Motzi Shemra, it says, Kiya Nara, just a couple psukim later, right? Kiya Nara Psula. She's a Psula, Mora Salish. Yeah. Give us a Psula, Mora Salish, and he slept with her. Both say some and you take them both out. Al Shar Ha'ir Ahi. Now we're talking about the adulterer and the adulteress, both of them. Uskatam some mesu. Esanar Maras al Varshol. It's like she didn't cry out, meaning she did it willingly. Because he afflicted somebody else's wife. Then, if it says If she was raped and all that, of course, then she's not responsible, right? And right? That's when you know that onus rachmana patri, the son is also fine. So nobody helped all that. But if they committed adultery, this is not a case where she was married already and the guy claimed, look, she was that she committed adultery before. Simply, she was betrothed and she went off with somebody. That's the second one. Again, the second line. Bolo Adam and Beisavia. Adam came while she was still in her father's house, meaning she was only a betrothed. She didn't so Beisavia. So Pesach Shar Ha'ir. That's what the pasuk says. You kill them where? El Skaltim some Beisim and El Shar Ha'ir, the gate of the city, like the city's done. Sarcha, the third case. So the first case is Skila. The second is Skila at her father's house. The second case is Skila Pesach Shar. The third case, Sarcha, if she committed adultery. Then she becomes bias. All these apply that Nara gets Skila or Motzi Shem gets Skila. Nara, she was a Nara, she was 12 and a half. Let's say she committed adultery and then she turned to be 12 and a half. Ubagra, Tidan Bechenek. She gets chenek like a regular married woman who commits adultery gets chenek, gets strangulation, not skila, right? Lememra. So the Gemara says why? Because her body has changed. Now she's now a bogeres. Wherever her body has changed, her mode of execution has also changed. This leads us into tomorrow's discussion. The Gemara and tomorrow's stuff about discussion about this. Just because her body changed, you also change the mode of execution. We always say a marasa, if she's engaged, the punishment is skila if she committed adultery. If she's married, the punishment is chedek. Here we see it's not simply her state of marriage that's changed, right? That she goes from betrothal to marriage, but also the state of her body has changed because a bogeres gets killed b'chedek. Even though we talked about a motzi shemra. Motzi Shem is a special lachas. We'll see that gets skila. Tomorrow's Gemara we'll discuss that. Tomorrow's Gemara is going to be on the podcast. And on Sunday, Mirz Hashem, we're going to start on Daf Membav. On the 8th line, there's a ton of rabbanon there near the top of the page. The 8th line on Membav. That's where we'll start on Sunday. Shabbat Shalom L'Kula. Good Shabbos.